Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. We are continuing our coverage of this special edition of Sahara TV that we call Beyond Sowere, the State of Democracy and Crisis in Democracy in Africa. Joining us now is the leader of the IPOB, the Indigenous People of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You all will know that on the charges, the list of charges leveled against Sowere, one of them was that he and Nnamdi Kanu were planning to overthrow the government of Nigeria. So we felt that we should talk to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to know his take on what's going on. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, let me start by finding out from you, how do you feel about the arrest and detention of Sowere?
It is not entirely unexpected in a disgraceful and rather very shameless society like Nigeria. What happened to Sowere shouldn't come to anyone as a surprise. It is the type of democracy that they practice, which has no foundation or basis in the rule of law. Anything goes. When you have people presiding over the affairs of nearly 200 million people with forged certificates and affidavits, what happened to Sowere shouldn't come to anyone as a surprise at all. These are people who are not, by their very nature, civilized nor educated. So they have a very primitive feudal mindset. They are averse to dialogue and to discussion and to progressive ideas. All they understand is to kill and to loot. And that's what they've been doing, and that's what they will continue to do. Maybe now that they have oil in the north, or so we are led to believe, they will leave all of us alone.
Now, okay, let's go to one of the charges. As I said in the intro, the government is saying that you and Sowere met in New York and you conspired to overthrow the government. Will you be able to tell us what you discussed and if the government is making this up?
Of course they are making it up. They will lock up anyone. And I hope and pray that the difficulties, or should I say challenges, that Aisha Buhari is currently undergoing is not related to my last broadcast or penultimate broadcast, where I praised her for her doggedness and her determination. The thing about this set of paranoid kleptomaniacs you have, the Fulani cabal, is that they don't understand how democracy is supposed to function. My discussions with Sowere, we managed to put out in the open that same day following our meeting. Anybody with any iota of conscience would want a place where they come from to be run properly. People want decent schools, decent hospitals, good roads, and job opportunities for the younger ones who are coming up. Not everybody is, privileged to be sent abroad the same way that my father sent me abroad, or like Sowere himself who lives in America. Not everyone is privileged to be abroad. So we must cater and provide for people who are left to deal, or should I say, to confront the very difficulties that Nigeria as a society have imposed on. So what we discussed essentially is about the welfare and the well-being of people who are trapped in Nigeria, people who are suffering, people who are in pain and in severe difficulties. And you would expect any conscientious person to be able to have that at the back of their minds when discussing, human beings who are suffering under very intolerable and repressive regimes. So what we discussed were out in the open. So if it was a conspiracy, why would we come before the cameras to actually, say or tell the public what we had discussed? That is the thing about them. It's just simple paranoia. I saw the gentleman who was on your show earlier, that wrote the author that wrote the book, We Are All Biafrans. You can see the extent of the paranoia, or the paranoia, I should say. He traveled abroad, came back wearing a T-shirt with Biafra written on it, and they all went crazy. These are the sort of people that we are being forced to deal with or to confront on a daily basis. These are people who don't actually know what democracy, freedom of speech, or rights of people to freely associate is all about. That is Nigeria for you. And when we campaign for Biafra, some people don't understand it. We cannot live in a country with people who claim they're educated but fail to appreciate nor grasp a very final rudiments of what democracy is all about.
Now, if in the trial your name will be mentioned, of course, I know you are aware of that. What I am not expecting that the defense will call you, but just imagine if they called you, what are you going to say? Because the government is going to put the case that, okay, this is what they were planning to do in New York. What will you say if just imagine that you were called to by the
I
defense?
will be deposed on that oath, of course. I will be deposed on that oath, and I will give my testimony. And what I will say to them is that my discussions with Sowere were entirely open and very frank. The same discussion you will have, with anybody who is seeking to better the lives of their people. Sowere is trying to do the best he can to help ordinary poor Nigerians. I am doing the best I can to help restore Biafra. It's as simple as that. So we met to have a discussion because after all said and done, today Biafra is located geographically within the damnable contraption called Nigeria. And Sowere, being an avowed Nigerian, wanted to have a discussion with me, and we met and had discussion. It's nothing to do with about replacing Buhari. After all, Buhari is there. It's Jubril al-Sudani who is there. Why would we want to replace the Sudanese? We just have to chase him, to leave there and go back to Sudan. Buhari is not there. So this whole nonsense about trying to replace Buhari is all balderdash, and they know this. They're just trying to look for an excuse to incarcerate him. And I am sure that Tinubu is behind this. That is, I am absolutely certain that Tinubu is behind all this nonsense. So very soon he will regain his freedom. His bail conditions will be met, and he will regain his freedom. And then the revolution will continue from there. I made it very clear to him that he will be incarcerated, he will be locked up, but he needs to remain very strong. He will outlast all of them. At the end of the day, Sowere will emerge as a hero of the Yoruba race, I assure you.
Now, you said that Tinubu is behind. Can you give us your reason or the evidence, if you have any, why you think Tinubu is behind his arrest?
It is the same gang of people, the same very backward, very regressive, very corrupt gang of criminals. You have some of them in Igbo land as well. Once they see people emerge, people they feel are younger than them, people they feel should be within the age bracket of their children, they begin to feel threatened. Tinubu wants to run for the presidency come 2023, and he sees revolution now as a clear and present danger to that very ambition. So he did all he can to make sure that Sowere is incarcerated. It's something that, the likes of Ohaneze and the Southeast governors will do to anyone. I'm sure, even in the North, it's something that the cabal will do to anyone trying to emerge, to try to carve out some semblance of should I say, consistent agitation for the betterment of people within that very society. That's what they do. They've been doing it from 1960. That's how they are wired up. That's what they will continue to do. It's the same everywhere. So the same nonsense you have that Tinubu is doing to Sowere is what I've been encountering with those criminals you have in Biafra land. It's in their nature. That's the way they are. They want to run for the presidency, and every obstacle or every perceived threat or obstacle along the way will be eliminated. And that's the way they are. And that's what they have done. Can you see, or are people actually mindful of the ridiculousness of the conditions, of the bail conditions given to Sowere? Can you believe that? Now the Nigerians are there now as a treasury, collecting money for the government.
I wanted to ask you that question because you were mentioned as one of the reasons why they had to give that tough condition. Do you think it's fair? And what do you think about that bail condition, the conditions that were given to Sowere?
The type of bail condition you give to people that you do not intend to release. Before we even go to the bail conditions, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that a competent court of law, the same man that they went to, the same Justice Taiwo that they went to, granted Sowere unconditional release. Unconditional. That's the thing about Black Africans and the way we reason, which I keep lamenting about all the time. We have something defective with our brain. We don't reason very well. Black people, there's something wrong with us. A court gave him unconditional bail. That very court ruling was not obeyed. It wasn't obeyed at all by the cabal that run, by Abba Kyari and his gang that run Nigeria. Now they had to take him to court again for a very stringent bail condition to be issued. And now everybody's talking about Sowere's bail condition, not about the fact that he was previously granted unconditional bail.
Didn't the same thing happen to you?
Now, no. And there was something that you said earlier which I had to touch upon.
Okay.
The DSS, the very criminal DSS, were relying on the fact that I am no longer attending Binta Nyako's court as an excuse or reason to deny or to campaign for Sowere not to be given bail, or to argue for Sowere not to be given bail. But within their papers, they also clearly forgot, this is why I'm upset with Parliament, they also forgot that the army came to my house on the 14th of September to kill me. I was due in court on the 13th of October. That is completely lost in the narrative, completely lost in the discussion, because that is what Nigeria does. They get you where they want you to be, then they spend a lot of money convincing the media, trying to intimidate them into publishing their own version of the story. Now, I think in the case of Sowere, the area, or should I say the topic, that should be the fact that he was granted unconditional bail and that was not.
Now, the one of the charges against him was this idea that he insulted the president. Do you concerned about Nigerians being charged to court for insulting the president? And are you worried about that?
I am not worried. The same charge was leveled against me. And during the prima facie phase of our case, it was thrown out by Binta Nyako. You cannot insult somebody in a free society. If that person feels sufficiently aggrieved, they should, of course, have every recourse to the law. That's what they're supposed to do. You cannot, there is nobody called a president. There is no office that is called the office of the president being occupied now by Jubil, of course, in the name of Muhammad Buhari, that is somehow sovereign. No, he's a human being. If he feels aggrieved or insulted, he should consult his lawyers, and it's a private matter. Nothing for the state prosecutor to take up as a charge against somebody. They leveled the same pathetic charge against me, and it was thrown out. All Farah could have done was to make reference to my case and to say that some nonsense was brought up during my case, and it was dismissed because it has no basis in law. But that is the thing about them. Both the judiciary, which I blame, the Nigerian judiciary is a complete and utter mess. They preside over this injustice, legalized injustice. They allow themselves to be used by the executive, basically to subvert not just the will of the people, but the constitution and judicial process. And that shouldn't be allowed to happen in any sane society. It shouldn't be allowed to happen at all.
Now, okay, let's go to other things, because there are so many things I want to touch with you. Now, you made a speech at the European Union in Brussels. What did you tell them, and how did they receive that speech? And why is it that we don't have a video of you talking to them?
Because a lot of people do not know the length that the Nigerian government will go to suppress our agitation or what they have been doing. There is a particular country that we are having issues with. Once that is resolved, I will make everything public. People don't understand this. That within the EU itself, the United Nations, the various agencies that you have, and all over the world, the Nigerian government is paying billions upon billions of dollars to consultants and lobbyists to ensure that our voice is not heard. We have a very tiny, small, should I say, insignificant budget compared to what they have, but we are making very massive inroads. But what I can say to people is that at the end of the day, you will see the result of our diplomatic offensive, and the zoo will not survive it. I'll show you.
Okay, in Nigeria today, the battle for 2023 is on. There are a lot of people making statements. One of them is Junaid Mohammed, and he said recently that Igbo people should go to hell if they don't want to, because they are denied presidency in 2023. That if they want to secede, they should secede. What is your take on this talk about 2023 and Igbo people and the presidency?
It's the same talk we've been hearing about since childhood. about reconstruction, rehabilitation, and heaven knows what the R is all about. It's the same thing about the youths of today are the leaders of tomorrow. The same garbage, the same nonsense that never comes to fruition. Anybody thinking that the Fulani cabal will relinquish power to the South come 2023 is not only deluded, but may have the need to see a psychiatric, doctor, because they're not well mentally. They will never do it. They have nothing, absolutely nothing. They have nothing. They contribute nothing to the economy. Absolute zilch, nothing to the economy. What do they contribute? I keep asking them all the time. When was the last time you heard about a Fulani writer? When was the last time you heard about a Fulani poet? Is it because of the almost the how do I put it, the monopoly being run by Dangote? What do they contribute to the economy? It's absolutely zero. They contribute nothing. So they're holding on to power for their lives because they understand that to relinquish. I mean, of course, they had a bit of it under Jonathan after Obasanjo and the brief tenure of Yar'Adua. Jonathan came in. They were almost dying on a daily basis. They wanted it back by all means. Thinking that power is coming to the South and wasting their time. I would not allow myself to be drawn into this very debate because it is very childish. That means that our people have learned nothing. Anybody campaigning, anybody pushing for the presidency to be returned to the South is deluded, quite frankly. I wouldn't even dignify them with any measure of contribution beyond what I've said right now.
Do you think the same thing about this Hanese group that came out and said that people should forget about your movement and your group and Biafra and fight for Igbo presidency, that's what's important?
I think I've lost you. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. So you didn't hear my question. I can hear you. I'm saying...
Yes, I heard the question. It's about anybody can afford to raise, a few friends can gather in a palm wine bar somewhere and raise 4,500 to 4,600 and pay the nearest journalist to publish their press statement. That doesn't make it credible, valid. It is absolute nonsense. Nobody in their right mind, I repeat, nobody in their right mind will even contemplate the possibility of...
Okay, I think we are having technical difficulties. His line is frozen. We will take a break and then we'll be right back.
4 years is our turn. You mentioned, does Ohanese have credibility?
Okay.
Who talks about Ohanese? Do they have any credibility at all? Can they convene a meeting, even a local meeting? Anybody will answer, no, of course we won't go there. Because they know that they are just a front, or should I say an extension of the Fulani Caliphate in our land. They do not matter. Nobody takes them seriously. And quite frankly, I'm even shocked that you're raising this very matter. Because Ohanese doesn't exist. They don't exist on the page of newspapers.
All right.
They have no credibility on the ground.
All right. We are running out of time. Let me ask you one more question about Senator Ike Ekweremadu and what happened to him in Germany. I know you've had time to reflect on the treatment he received from some activists, Biafran activists. Do you think that he got the right treatment, and did that treatment advance your goal?
It is a family matter. I've said it before, time and time again. It is a family, it's an entirely family matter. It's not for public ventilation. It's not an issue that I wish to discuss in public. It is a private family matter which has been resolved. And lessons have been learned from it on their part. And I'm sure going forward, every politician now know that they will be held accountable once they step out of the very backward and primitive Africa that they currently inhabit. Once you come out, into Europe or into America, we'll ask you questions. You can't be earning salaries and you're junketing all over the place. You can't be earning salaries and you're going to do New York Festival somewhere. No roads built, no hospitals, nothing, and you're all over the place claiming you're a leader. that will no longer happen. They will be held responsible once they come out. And that is the benchmark that we have set, and we intend to continue doing.
All right, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate that. So that has been Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, joining us in this conversation about Sowere and all the people being detained in Nigeria and across Africa. We are discussing democracy in crisis in Africa beyond Sowere. So when we come back, we are going to go to Ghana, where there are issues with democracy and freedom of the media. We're also going to go to Uganda and Zimbabwe. So stay tuned.
Professor Wale Soyinka, Femi Falana-San, Coalition for Revolution now, call Idris Abdul Karim, Mike Palm, and So Big. Free Sowere now, revolution now. Wadi, free Sowere, 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 Wadi, free Sowere.
Green, white, green, stand up for your right. Green, white, green, don't give up the fight. Green, white, green, everything will be alright. Green, white, green, cry no more.
Them say Indians are criminals. Nigerians, why we so sentimental? Outside Yoruba get criminals. Go Saudi Arabia, make you see proper. Still on the matter with the FBI. Make una the try balance on our propaganda. Nigerians making us proud in America. We got doctors, lawyers, and engineers. Our problem are some Nigerian leaders. We they negotiate with some terrorists. As government don't they negotiate with terrorists. It's time to free my brother Sowere. Wadi, free 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 Sowere.
Green, white, green, stand up for your rights. Green, white, green, don't give up the fight. Green, white, green, everything will be alright. Green, white, green, cry no more.
It's time to say no to xenophobia. Nigerians are dying in South Africa. Read your history and learn about the appetite. And we say we boycott South Africa. And our government, they treat us like criminals. Tell me why South Africans go respect Nigerians. For all those celebrities, when they talk anything, and when they make money for this country. Make una remember the treatment of Ekoremadu. As soon as they always travel, go overseas. As the government don't negotiate with terrorists. It's time to free my brother Sowere. Wadi, free 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 Sowere.
Green, white, green, stand up for your rights. Green, white, green, don't give up the fight. Green, white, green, everything will be alright. Green, white, green, cry no more.
Sowere, 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 Sowere. I want to thank all the activists that came out to show love. You're not cowards, you're real people. Baba Dede Mabiaku, thank you so much.